Hello, and welcome back to the Single Society. This is the space where we will be exploring what it means to be single, reframing the conversation, and thinking about things in a much more positive light. Now, it should be acknowledged that this episode is going out on Valentine's Day, and a very happy Valentine's Day to you. It will probably not surprise you to learn that we are going to be looking at how Valentine's Day might be celebrated somewhat differently through the lens of being single, and also, even if you're not, how you might want to reshape some of those traditions. Yesterday, I had an episode out on Valentines, and if you've not listened to that yet, I'd really encourage you to go back, give it a listen, because it is talking very much about what celebrating love means to us now, whether it's self love, friendships, or indeed it could be a romantic partner in our lives. But before we think about how Valentine's Day could be explored differently, let's go back a layer. Let's think a little bit about the traditions around the day and where they came from. Now, this is not a history podcast by any stretch of the imagination, but you may already know that Valentine's Day stems originally from somebody called Saint Valentine. So he was a 3rd century Roman saint. He became a saint because he was trying to convince a Roman emperor to convert to Christianity. This did not go terribly well. I am, of course, giving you the edited version here, and unfortunately, he was ultimately killed for his beliefs. And before his execution, he wrote a letter to a loved one, which he signed from your Valentine. And we believe that that is where the tradition of sending Valentine's Day cards originally comes from. And to start with, that is what it was about. It was about sending messages of love, letters, cards, whatever that might be. And obviously, it's been expanded to be this global tradition that we know about now that involves expensive gifts and roses and chocolates and all the rest of it. But it had very humble origins indeed. St. Valentine wrote a love letter before his death, signed it from your Valentine. Just a little extra bonus fact for you, he is also the patron saint of beekeepers, which, as a resident Mancunian, fills me with joy. I think that's great. If you don't know, the bee is the symbol of Manchester. I live in Manchester and it's where I run many of my singles nights. Not just in Manchester, there's also singles nights running in York and Preston, but I am very loyal to Manchester. So I love that he is both Saint Valentine and then also patron saint of beekeepers as well. But just because we have that historical context and these traditions that have evolved and emerged since does not mean that we have to continue celebrating in that way. Even if you are in a relationship, you may think this isn't for me. This isn't how I want to celebrate love. And I think the first really important thing to note is whilst it can be helpful to have a day to focus on love and to express gratitude to those that we love, it should not just be one day. If it's helpful as a focal point, then fabulous, but this is something we should really be thinking about all throughout the year, and certainly practicing self-love and self-compassion is not something that can only be done on 14th of February, or certainly shouldn't only be done today. So I wanted to open up this conversation about how celebrating Valentine's Day might be different. Doesn't necessarily have to be on today, of course. Personally, I am a very big fan of tomorrow. This year it's going to be Friday 15th, but the 15th of February, because if you go to the shops, everything is discounted. Personally, I think we should celebrate this as a national discounted chocolate today, which to me is just as exciting. So it may be that your celebrations really kick in tomorrow in time for the weekend, which is perfect. However, if you are somebody who likes to celebrate things romantically, but you're not wanting to go with a tradition, and especially if you are single at the moment, then there are lots of different things to think about. It may be that you want to take yourself on a solo date of some kind. So you want to go, you want to show yourself some love, and you want to take yourself out. Now, there's lots of different reasons to do this. It might be that the process of getting dressed up and doing something different is what is special to you about it. It might also be, though, a bit of a test of confidence and courage, because sadly, in my opinion, society is still very much set up for us to do things as couples or as groups, and it is still not always seen as expected that people might be out by themselves, which is, of course, ridiculous. We should all feel confident doing that. But I do appreciate that it might initially feel quite daunting. Now, what I would say is if you're listening and you're thinking, oh my God, I could not take myself on a solo date, that sounds terrifying, that does not sound relaxing at all, that is totally fair. Obviously, it's completely a personal choice. But I would encourage you to maybe just dip your toe in the water at some stage. Some things are easier than others. So I would say going out for a 3 course meal by yourself, fabulous if you're up for it, but that is quite it can be quite daunting. Like, I know when I go out to eat by myself, one of the like little things is if I want to leave my bag on my chair, I feel a bit awkward asking one of the wait staff to be like, oh, would you mind just watching this for a second while I nip to the bathroom? They always will. It's honestly, it's not a big deal. And it's the kind of thing that once you've done once, gets so much easier the next time. But I would say something like going out to a restaurant for a 3 course meal is quite a full on first date to take yourself on. So try thinking about something that feels easier. So like I would say quite a good one to ease in with is going to the cinema, because once you get there and you sit down, no one's talking, it's a dark room, there's really very little point in going to the cinema with somebody. If you want to share your thoughts afterwards, voice note a friend, it's absolutely fine. So I'd say that is quite a good one to ease in with. Or equally, go to a space where people often are by themselves. So, like, it's very socially acceptable to go to a coffee shop by yourself, take a book, have your favourite coffee, tea, hot chocolate, whatever that is for you, and just indulge a little bit. But if you really don't want to engage with Valentine's Day at all, please believe me that I do respect that. Of course, I do. But I think that you don't have to be shut off from celebrating Valentine's Day because you're single. Not at all. The day is supposed to be about celebrating love in all its different forms. So that could be with your friends, as I was talking about in yesterday's episode, and do feel free to go back and listen to that. Or celebrating self love as well. That can be any number of different things. Could be a solo date, could be some self care at home. But these seasons are also for you, and you get to enjoy them just as much as anybody else. If you'd like to listen along for more, please do hit subscribe. It'd be amazing to have you following along on this journey. And there's lots more episodes coming up, so please do check back here very soon. See you then.